not alone. Okay, let's say it like we really mean it, because you're not alone. You know, there's a lot of women in here, so let's say it again. I am not alone. Okay, now I want you to make eye contact with someone, and I want you to say, you are not alone. All right, good, because you're not. All right, because some of you can unhold hands now. Some of you just thought, what was I thinking back 5 months ago or a year ago, you know, and no one else is going to be in that seminar, and I'm going to have a personal one-on-one, and I don't really think I want that. But you're not alone. And if you're a mother and you have more than half a child, you know, so, you know, maybe you're incubating your first child and you don't have issues right now with anger, but boy, if you're much further than that, there's just stuff that goes on. You know, frustrations that go on, that build upon one another, and some of us can get to a place that we never, ever imagined ourselves being with this anger. And that's what we're going to talk about in this session. The first thing I want you to think about is I want you to picture yourself as a little Mount Mama. All right, so you're a little volcano sitting there in your chair. And I love it that I can see your face and I can see your eyes and your expressions. So you're a little Mount Mama, and your magma level is really low right now. And why is that, ladies? No children. Thank you, Jesus. All right, so we don't have any children. Hopefully you've turned off your cell phone, because really nothing's going to happen in the next 6 hours that just has to have your attention. I'm serious. Your husband is perfectly capable. Good enough. He'll do it good enough, all right, for the next few hours. But, you know, we have this magma, and it's just pretty low and cool when the kids aren't around. And then a lot of times it's really low before we have children. Remember yourself, your little self-assured, prideful self before you had children, and you saw moms? You saw them, the others, remember? They had like kids stuck to their leg with green snot coming out their nose, and the kid that was screaming and crying in the middle of Target, and you would think, you know what? When I'm a mom, I will never put up with that kind of behavior. And I'm not going to let myself go. I'm going to stay a size 42, you know. Got to put those expectations here, and then you're never disappointed, never disappointed. But, you know, we're all there. And today it's not such a struggle, so that's a good thing, because it helps you have a little perspective. Lets you have a little perspective about this thing with anger. But the reality is we're all little Mount Mamas. We all blow it in our anger. And the first picture I want to give you is, what kind of Mount Mama are you? How do you erupt in your anger? The first type I would liken to like a Hawaiian-style volcano, and that's a type on Discovery Channel that when it's really pretty when it erupts. And it doesn't look very dangerous. Have you seen this on Discovery Channel? And the magma just kind of comes out of the top, and it slowly goes down the slope of the volcano. And you can't even really see the magma because there's just this black crust on top of it. And you think, that is so pretty. And then you watch it, and it starts to take over the landscape, and it starts to cover roadways so you can't travel. And then sometimes it even makes its way to the ocean, like in Hawaii, and it creates this whole new beach area. Some of us in here, you're really thinking, why? I really don't know why I'm in here, because I really don't have an issue with anger. You know, I don't yell at my kids. I don't strike out physically against my kids. You know, I get a little irritated or whatever, but I'm not too bad. And you know what? I think sometimes as mothers, we have a passive-aggressive type way of expressing our anger, especially if you're a good Christian mom. All right? Especially if you know all the rules and all the do's and don'ts. And you know, you can test this. You know, a video camera should be outside the church parking lot on Sunday morning. Actually, a little mini cam on the top of our head. You know, and you wake up and you're ready to go to church and learn about Jesus. And then you've got that child that has to have the toe sock seam just a certain way in front of her foot. Anyone? Buy my book simply. I tell you what, you don't even have to buy it. Just come to the table, and I've got information. You can buy seamless socks online. I mean, it's just an answer. It could have saved so many blow-ups in our home. So in our morning, we'd be like, okay, Kristen, it's time to go learn about Jesus. Let's go. And I'm let me put your socks on. Me do it. Me do it. Oh, scary. So we're sitting there, I'm like, gotta get your socks on, it's time to go, and we gotta get Ricky and Neil together, and we gotta get Patrick together, and we get in the car, and I'm like, does everybody have their Bible? You know, this is what we say now, they're in their teen years. I'm like, does everybody have their Bible? Oh, we don't need it. What? We're going to church. We're gonna learn about Jesus. Get your Bible. going to church, like, what kind of kids am I raising? Don't need my Bible. What am I? So you pull in the driveway, and your husband's already talking about where you're going to go for lunch, and you get out, and you stalk into the church, and you walk in the door. And what do? Well, wow. And someone says, Julie, how you doing? Oh, bless God. I'm just... Am I right? And some of us are like that with our anger. We just repress it. We don't even really want to identify it and be clean about it with ourselves. It's embarrassing. Maybe it's shameful. Maybe it's exactly the way we said we weren't going to be. So if we just pretend, that la 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 la, we do that. So maybe you're there. Maybe you're a Stromboli type volcano. And it's not so much you get any of these words, it's the picture I want you to have. A Stromboli volcano is named after the island of Stromboli, Italy, and there's a volcano there that erupts the same time every day. And people will travel from all over the world to watch this volcano erupt. And it's just like clockwork. Now, some of you maybe are tracking with me. 7:48 a.m., there's always a volcanic eruption in the Barnhill household. And do you know why that is? Because the bus comes at 7:50 a.m. And there is usually a child, and in the earlier days, it would usually be a 6-year-old in his underwear, which I just don't think there's anything cuter than a little boy who's 6 years old in his underwear. Little bottoms all loose, hanging in the back. You know what I'm talking about? Not attractive on a 41-year-old man. But this kid's sitting there and he's like, Mom, I don't know where my clothes are. Wow! And then they come home, and then, maybe around, 5:40 p.m., there's always another volcanic eruption because they expect dinner. And, I thought about it maybe 10 minutes before that time. But in your life, there are just certain things, certain times when you just blow it. And guess what? Your kids know it. And they conspire against you. They're evil. You know this. They're like, hey, Kristen, come here. Watch this. And then they just go out and they just push that button, all right? But Stromboli, some of us just, it's just predictable. The things that trigger our anger, the way we erupt, we blow up maybe verbally, or we blow out physically, or we make all these, well, you're never going to do this and never do that, and then it diminishes and goes away. Now, another one is a Vulcanian style of eruption, and this is and these get, increasingly stronger. The fallout is increasingly more serious. And a Vulcanian, if you were standing at the top of a Vulcanian type eruption, before the eruption occurs, that all the oxygen is sucked out of the top of that volcano. Literally, if you were standing there, the oxygen would be sucked out of your lungs, and you wouldn't be able to breathe, and you would die. And I think about sometimes just the things that have just completely sucked the life out of my home. Verbally, the things I've said, the actions that I've taken with my kids. And the point I want you to have with this one is that solid pieces of shrapnel come off of this volcanic top. I mean, huge portions of the volcano. And I think about how, at times, my words, my actions, my thoughts, because this isn't all about the actions we take. It's not all about the things that I could come to your house and actually note and see that you did. It's those things that kill our soul. The things that drive us to our bed. Well, we want to go there at 10 a.m., but we can't. But, the things that take us there in the evening, and we're just like, what was this day about? Who am I? Is this the same woman that prayed when she was 8 years old that she could have children? And then I get the children that I wanted, and this is the way I treat them? This is what I'm talking about. That's those solid pieces of fragments that eviscerate. And that's kind of the word I want you to have, is just eviscerate, guts. It guts the dreams and the hopes that you had for your family. It guts the spirit of your children. Listen, guys, I have crushed my children's spirits before. I've broken their spirit because of uncontrolled anger. Now, what I'm telling you is that there's restoration and hope for all this. And you're going to actually get to meet Kristen and Ricky and Patrick in the afternoon session, because I told them, I have to take you so they know that you're alive. And that you would come, without being chained. And